When the Zephyrian Empire's greatest warship crashed on a backwater planet called Earth, the aliens aboard thought their story was over. The vessel's quantum drives were dead, its weapons systems fried, and its hull breached in 17 places. To the survivors, it was nothing more than an expensive tomb. But they had never met humans before. While the Zephyrians saw scrap metal and failure, humanity saw the greatest opportunity in their species' history. What the galaxy's most advanced civilization considered worthless junk, Earth's engineers called a masterclass in reverse engineering. The aliens had given up on their ship, but humans don't know how to give up, it's not in their programming. 3 years later, when humanity's first interstellar fleet emerged from the shadows of their solar system, the galaxy would learn a fundamental truth: never underestimate a species that built an empire from the wreckage of someone else's failure. This is the story of how Earth's greatest weakness became their ultimate strength, and how the word impossible became humanity's favorite challenge. The Zephyrian dreadnought Stellar Dominion had ruled the void between stars for 3 centuries. Its quantum mesh hull could withstand the fury of dying suns, and its plasma cannons could crack moons like eggs. Now it tumbled through Earth's atmosphere like a burning stone, trailing fire and the dreams of a dying crew. Commander Veltar pressed his four-fingered hand against the cracked viewport, watching the blue-green world rush toward them. His chitinous exoskeleton, once gleaming purple-black, was now scarred and dulled. 3 days of running battles with the hegemony rebels had left his ship crippled, his crew decimated, and his empire's greatest weapon nothing more than a falling star. Hull breach on decks 12 through 15, his tactical officer, Zen, reported. The young Zephyrian's voice cracked with exhaustion. Life support failing in sections 7 and 9. Quantum drives completely offline. Sir, we're going to hit that planet hard. Veltar nodded, accepting their fate. In Zephyrian culture, a broken weapon was discarded. A failed vessel was abandoned. There was no shame in death, only in refusing to accept it gracefully. Signal the crew. Prepare for honorable transition. We die as we lived, servants of the Empire. But the Stellar Dominion had other plans. Instead of the glorious explosion Veltar expected, the ship hit Earth's Pacific Ocean like a skipping stone, its emergency systems triggering atmospheric dampeners that turned certain death into brutal survival. The dreadnought carved a 20-mile furrow through the ocean floor before coming to rest in what humans called the Mariana Trench. Veltar awoke to the sound of water dripping and the soft hum of emergency lighting. Around him, 43 of his crew stirred among the wreckage. They were alive, impossibly, but trapped beneath 3 miles of alien ocean with no hope of rescue. Status report, he commanded, his voice hoarse. Zen consulted a flickering display. Main power dead. Quantum cores cold. Communications array destroyed. Life support running on emergency cells, maybe 6 months if we're careful. Sir, we're effectively marooned. The commander surveyed the damage with calculating eyes. The ship's most advanced systems were fried beyond repair. The quantum drives that could fold space itself were little more than expensive decoration. Their plasma weapons, capable of sterilizing entire continents, wouldn't power a handheld torch. To any civilized species, the Stellar Dominion was now worthless, a tomb to be sealed and forgotten. But Veltar had underestimated the curious nature of the species living above them. Dr. Sarah Chen was monitoring deep-sea seismic activity when the ocean floor exploded into light. The marine biologist watched her instruments spike beyond their maximum readings, recording gravitational anomalies that shouldn't exist and energy signatures that made no sense. Jenkins, are you seeing this? She called to her research partner. Something big just landed in the trench. Really big. Within hours, every military satellite in orbit was repositioned to watch the Pacific. The energy readings were unlike anything in human experience, sophisticated beyond Earth's technology but clearly damaged. Whatever had crashed was alien, advanced, and possibly still active. The first manned submersible to reach the crash site came back with footage that changed everything. The Stellar Dominion, even broken and scarred, was obviously artificial. Its lines were too perfect, its materials too advanced. Most importantly, it was clearly not of human origin. President Martinez convened an emergency session of the Global Defense Council within 12 hours. Around the Oval Table, the most powerful people on Earth stared at fuzzy images of humanity's first confirmed alien contact. The vessel appears to be a warship, Admiral Brooks reported, his weathered face grave. Conservative estimates put it at 3 kilometers long, with weapon systems we can barely understand and hull materials that don't appear on any periodic table. Is it hostile? Asked Premier Volkov, his fingers drumming nervously on the table. Unknown. The ship appears to be severely damaged, possibly dead in the water. But, the technology. Brooks paused, choosing his words carefully. We're looking at engineering that's centuries ahead of our best efforts. Maybe millennia. Director Nakamura of the Global Science Consortium leaned forward. What's our approach? First contact protocols? The room fell silent. Humanity had always assumed their first encounter with alien intelligence would be with visitors from the stars, not with crash survivors at the bottom of their deepest ocean. The protocols seemed inadequate for salvage operations. President Martinez made the decision that would reshape human civilization. We make contact. Carefully. And we prepare for every possibility. The first human delegation to reach the stellar dominion came in the experimental deep-sea vessel Cousteau's Dream. Dr. Chen led the team, accompanied by linguist Dr. Ahmed Hassan, engineer Captain Maria Santos, and a full diplomatic detail. They found the Zephyrians waiting. Veltar had noticed the primitive submersibles circling his ship for days. The local species, whoever they were, possessed curiosity that bordered on recklessness. Their vessels were crude, chemical rockets and metal hulls, but they showed remarkable persistence. When the small craft docked with his ship's emergency airlock, Veltar gathered his remaining officers. They would meet these aliens with dignity, as representatives of the greatest empire in the galaxy. Even in defeat, they would not dishonor their people. The airlock cycled open, revealing creatures unlike anything in Zephyrian experience. They walked on 2 legs like Zephyrians, but their skin was soft and pink, their eyes small and bright. They wore primitive environmental suits and carried translation devices that sparked with electronic intelligence. We come in peace, the lead creature said, its words converted to rough Zephyrian by its machine. We are representatives of the species that inhabits this world. We wish to help. Veltar almost laughed. Help? These primitive beings, who had barely mastered spaceflight, wanted to help the crew of the most advanced warship in the galaxy? It was like offering to teach a master engineer how to count. I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire, he replied formally. Your gesture is appreciated but unnecessary. We require nothing from your species. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her translation device crackling. Commander, your ship appears to be severely damaged. Our scientists believe you may be stranded. We have resources, technology, and, most importantly, time. Perhaps we can find a solution together. The Zephyrian commander studied these strange aliens. Their technology was indeed primitive, but their eyes held something he recognized: intelligence paired with determination. Still, what could they possibly offer? Our vessel employs quantum-dimensional physics beyond your comprehension, he explained patiently. Our power systems manipulate exotic matter states that your science has not discovered. Our weapons channel plasma energies that could boil your oceans. With respect, there is nothing you can provide. Captain Santos, the engineer, spoke up. Commander, sometimes a fresh perspective can solve problems that expertise cannot. We may not understand your technology, but we understand problem solving. We understand making broken things work again. Over the following weeks, more human delegations visited the stellar dominion. They brought food, medical supplies, and, most puzzling to the Zephyrians, questions. Endless questions. The humans wanted to understand everything. How did the quantum drives work? What materials comprised the hull? How were the plasma weapons powered? They approached each system with childlike curiosity and terrifying focus. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves, Earth's leading physicist, spent 3 days studying the ship's dead quantum core. It's beautiful, she whispered to her team. The mathematics alone, they're folding spacetime like origami. The power requirements should be impossible, but they've solved it somehow. Can we fix it? Asked Dr. Chen. Fix it? Reeves laughed. Sarah, I can barely understand it. But, she paused, studying the crystalline matrices that formed the drive's heart. I think I see why it failed. Look at this. She pointed to a section where the crystal structure had fractured. The hegemony weapons used some kind of resonance attack. They didn't just break the drives, they poisoned them. The quantum field is stuck in a feedback loop. So it's permanently damaged? By their standards, yes. But, Reeves smiled. They're thinking like engineers. We need to think like mechanics. Commander Veltar watched the humans work with growing bewilderment. They swarmed through his ship like insects, examining every system, asking questions about technologies they couldn't possibly comprehend. Most disturbing, they seemed genuinely excited by the challenge. They believe they can repair the quantum drives, Zen reported after observing the human scientists for a week. Sir, it's impossible. The crystalline matrices are quantum-locked in a cascade failure state. Even our own engineers couldn't fix this. I know, Veltar replied. But, look at them work. Through the observation ports, they could see Dr. Reeves and her team. The humans had somehow jury-rigged their primitive computers to interface with Zephyrian data systems. They were running simulations, testing theories, failing and trying again with tireless persistence. Sir, Zen said quietly, they don't know enough to quit. 3 months after the crash, Dr. Reeves made her announcement to the joint human-Zephyrian engineering team. We can't fix your quantum drives, she said bluntly. The technology is beyond us, and the damage is too severe. Veltar nodded, unsurprised. It had been an interesting diversion, but now reality asserted itself. However, Reeves continued, we think we can build something better. The Zephyrian commander blinked in confusion. I'm sorry? Your quantum drives are amazing, but they're also fragile. One resonance attack and they're dead forever. But what if we combined your quantum field manipulation with our fusion technology? What if instead of folding space, we convinced space to move for us? Captain Santos pulled up holographic displays showing hybrid engine designs. Your people think in terms of perfection, elegant solutions that work flawlessly until they don't. We think in terms of redundancy, backup systems, and making things that are too stubborn to break. You want to rebuild our propulsion system using inferior human technology? Veltar asked. Not replace, enhance. Your quantum fields are the heart, but our fusion systems are the muscle. Your computers are the brain, but our mechanical systems are the skeleton. Together, we build something neither of our species could create alone. For the first time in months, Veltar felt something like hope. The workshop that emerged around the stellar dominion defied every principle of interstellar engineering. Where Zephyrian technology favored elegant perfection, human additions sprawled with cheerful chaos. Fusion reactors jury-rigged to quantum field generators. Mechanical backup systems welded onto crystalline computing matrices. It should have been a disaster. Instead, it was a revolution. Dr. Reeves wiped sweat from her forehead as she watched the first hybrid test run. The modified quantum drive hummed with an entirely new frequency, deeper, more stable than the original Zephyrian design. Around her, human engineers and Zephyrian technicians worked side by side, their universal language consisting of pointing, sketching, and the occasional explosion. Field stability at 97% and holding, reported Zen, who had become the unofficial liaison between the two species. His natural Zephyrian pessimism had given way to something approaching human optimism. Sir, it's actually working. Commander Veltar studied the readouts with growing amazement. The hybrid drives weren't just functional, they were superior to the originals. The human additions had created multiple redundant pathways, meaning resonance attacks could disable individual components without killing the entire system. How? He asked Dr. Reeves. Your understanding of quantum mechanics is primitive at best. The physicist grinned. That's exactly why it works. Your people know so much about quantum theory that you're trapped by the rules. We're too ignorant to know what's impossible. Captain Santos pointed to a fusion reactor that definitely wasn't supposed to be connected to a quantum field generator. You built your drives like Swiss watches, perfect, precise, and delicate. We build our engines like farm tractors, ugly, loud, and unstoppable. Combine the two and you get something that's both elegant and tough. The success of the drive modification opened floodgates of collaboration. Human engineers descended on every system of the stellar dominion with the enthusiasm of children in a candy store. They wanted to understand everything, improve everything, and, most importantly, learn everything. The weapon systems proved particularly challenging. Zephyrian plasma cannons were marvels of focused energy, capable of precisely delivering devastating firepower across interstellar distances. They were also completely incomprehensible to human physics. The plasma stream maintains coherence for over 1 million kilometers, Dr. Yamamoto, Earth's leading weapons physicist, muttered to herself. The magnetic field equations don't work. The energy requirements violate thermodynamics. This should be impossible. Lieutenant Commander Thekvie, the ship's former weapons officer, watched the human scientist with amusement. Dr. Yamamoto, the plasma cannon operates on principles your species won't discover for centuries. Perhaps you should focus on systems you can understand. Yamamoto looked up from her calculations with fire in her eyes. Commander, with respect, I've been told things were impossible before. In 1903, humans achieved powered flight. 66 years later, we landed on our moon. 50 years after that, we built fusion reactors. We don't accept impossible, we schedule it for next Tuesday. 3 weeks later, Yamamoto's team unveiled their solution. They couldn't replicate Zephyrian plasma technology, but they didn't need to. Instead, they had built hybrid weapons that combined human kinetic systems with Zephyrian targeting computers. Railguns, Santos explained to the assembled aliens. We accelerate projectiles using magnetic fields. Crude compared to your plasma cannons, but the beauty is in the ammunition. She held up a metal rod no bigger than her thumb. This is a depleted uranium penetrator with a human-designed guidance system and a Zephyrian computer core. It can adjust its trajectory in flight, calculate complex intercept courses, and deliver kinetic energy equivalent to a nuclear weapon. Thekvie examined the projectile skeptically. The targeting computer alone is worth more than your entire missile system. Exactly. Yamamoto grinned. One shot from your plasma cannon costs massive energy and exotic materials. One of our smart slugs costs about $50 in human currency and can be manufactured in any industrial facility. Quantity over quality. But surely plasma is superior in direct combat, absolutely. But what about overwhelming enemy defenses? What about sustained bombardment? What about fighting when your exotic matter generators are offline? Santos's smile was predatory. Commander, your weapons are scalpels. Ours are hammers. Sometimes you need precision. Sometimes you need to tear down the whole building. The collaboration extended beyond technology. Human cultural practices began influencing Zephyrian thinking in ways that surprised both species. The concept of brainstorming, throwing out wild ideas without judgment, was completely alien to Zephyrian engineering, which emphasized careful planning and proven solutions. Dr. Hassan, the linguist, documented these cultural exchanges with fascination. The Zephyrians approach problems like classical musicians, every note perfect, every movement planned. Humans approach problems like jazz musicians, improvising, building on each other's ideas, turning mistakes into features. During one memorable session, Engineer Class 410 proposed solving a power distribution problem using traditional Zephyrian crystal matrices. Dr. Chen suggested adding human fiber optic networks for backup. Captain Santos wondered aloud if they could use both systems simultaneously for redundancy. Dr. Yamamoto asked what would happen if they deliberately overloaded the crystal matrices and used the excess energy for something else entirely. That would destroy the crystals, Vorten said, scandalized.
But what if we made the crystals self-repairing? Chen asked.
Crystals can't repair themselves, Vorten replied.
Not with that attitude, Santos grinned. What if we grew them in a self-healing polymer matrix?
By the end of the session, they had designed a power system that was simultaneously more efficient, more robust, and more adaptable than either species could have created alone.
It was also completely unprecedented in galactic engineering.
Commander Veltar found himself in the unusual position of reporting good news to his superiors. The emergency communicator that Dr. Reeves had somehow coaxed back to life allowed brief contact with the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Korthak, he transmitted across the light years.
The Stellar Dominion is operational again.
The local species has proved surprisingly resourceful.
The response, delayed by distance, crackled with static.
Veltar, you're alive? We assumed the ship was lost. What is your status? Sir, we are ready for extraction, but I recommend we delay departure. The humans have technologies and approaches that could revolutionize our fleet design. Their methods are unconventional, but their results are undeniable.
A long pause.
Veltar, you're suggesting we learn from primitives? The commander looked around the workshop, where Zen was enthusiastically explaining human coffee to a group of fascinated Zephyrian engineers while Dr. Reeves used a welding torch to attach a backup fusion reactor to a quantum field stabilizer.
Sir, I'm suggesting we learn from partners.
The response came swiftly.
Negative, Commander.
The Empire does not require assistance from lesser species.
Prepare for extraction. A battle group will arrive in 6 months.
Veltar signed off feeling troubled. 6 months to convince his superiors that humanity was worth preserving. 6 months to prevent a first contact scenario that could end in tragedy for both species.
He needn't have worried.
The humans, predictably, were already planning for that contingency.
They think we're primitives?
Captain Santos asked after Veltar explained the situation.
Well, they're not wrong. But they're also not thinking strategically.
President Martinez had arrived at the crash site personally, along with the entire Global Defense Council.
The implications of the Zephyrian Empire's response were clear to everyone present.
They see us as a potential threat, Admiral Brooks observed. A primitive species that somehow made their technology work better than their own engineers.
That's either a useful ally or a dangerous enemy. How many ships are we talking about? Asked Dr. Chen.
A battle group, Veltar replied reluctantly.
12 dreadnoughts, 40 escort vessels, support craft.
More than enough to sterilize your planet.
The silence that followed was thoughtful rather than terrified. Premier Volkov finally spoke. Commander, with respect, they don't know humans very well, do they? Dr. Reeves laughed. 50 ships? That's adorable. Do they know we've been building starships for the past 4 months? The revelation surprised even Veltar.
While his crew had focused on repairing the Stellar Dominion, human shipyards around the globe had been working overtime.
Every lesson learned from Zephyrian technology had been immediately applied to new construction. The Enterprise launched last week, Admiral Brooks reported. First human ship with hybrid quantum fusion drives.
We've got 12 more on the assembly lines, with more starting construction daily. Your shipbuilding capacity is impressive, admitted Thekva. But these are untested designs using jury-rigged technology.
They can't match true Zephyrian warships in combat. Captain Santos's grin was distinctly predatory. Commander, you're thinking like an engineer again. We're thinking like soldiers.
She activated a holographic display showing the new human fleet designs. They were utterly unlike anything in Zephyrian naval architecture. Where Zephyrian ships were sleek and purposeful, human vessels looked like they'd been assembled from spare parts in a junkyard. The Enterprise class isn't designed to match your dreadnoughts one-on-one, Santos explained.
It's designed to be cheap, fast, and manufactured quickly.
We can build 5 of them in the time it takes your empire to build one traditional warship.
But quality, Thekva began, is overrated when you're outnumbered 10 to 1.
Besides, we learned from you.
Our ships have redundant everything.
Backup power, backup weapons, backup life support, backup backups. They're not elegant, but they're nearly impossible to kill quickly.
Dr. Yamamoto added, plus, we've solved the ammunition problem.
Remember our smart slugs? We can manufacture them by the millions.
Our ships carry magazines that can sustain bombardment for weeks.
Veltar studied the human fleet designs with growing comprehension.
They weren't trying to match Zephyrian technology, they were changing the entire paradigm of space warfare.
This is madness, he said quietly. You're militarizing your entire species based on contact with one damaged ship. President Martinez leaned forward.
Commander, you said it yourself, your battle group is coming whether we want them to or not. We can either greet them as helpless primitives, or we can greet them as equals. Which do you think gives us better chances of survival?
The Zephyrian commander realized he was watching something unprecedented in galactic history. Every other species that had encountered the Empire had either submitted immediately or been conquered quickly. None had ever responded to first contact by immediately building a fleet designed specifically to counter Zephyrian advantages. You're gambling your entire civilization on untested technology and tactics, he said. Dr. Reeves wiped her hands on a grease-stained lab coat.
Commander, humans have been gambling on impossible odds since we figured out how to make fire.
It's worked out pretty well so far.
As the months passed, the collaboration deepened.
Human manufacturing techniques revolutionized Zephyrian component production.
Zephyrian materials science enabled human engineering dreams. The result was a new generation of hybrid technology that neither species could have imagined alone. More importantly, both species were changing. Zephyrian engineers learned to embrace good enough solutions that could be improved later.
Human scientists learned the value of planning ahead and thinking in centuries rather than quarters.
When the Zephyrian battle group finally appeared on Earth's sensor networks, they found a system that defied every expectation.
The Stellar Dominion, supposedly crippled beyond repair, hung in orbit fully operational and visibly modified with alien technology.
Around it, a fleet of impossible human vessels waited with weapons powered and ready. And, on every communication channel, a simple message repeated, "Welcome to Earth. We need to talk."
Admiral Korthak materialized on the main screen of the Stellar Dominion S-bridge, his imposing figure radiating authority across the light years. His chitinous exoskeleton bore the ceremonial scarring of a warrior who had conquered 17 star systems, and his 4 eyes held the cold calculation of absolute power. Commander Veltar, the Admiral's voice carried the weight of imperial judgment. You will explain why my battle group faces an armed primitive fleet instead of retrieving survivors from a dead ship. Veltar straightened, very aware that his own crew, both Zephyrian and human, watched from around the bridge. Dr. Reeves stood beside him, her translation device converting every word for the benefit of President Martinez, who had insisted on witnessing this first official contact between the Empire and humanity. Sir, the situation has evolved.
The humans are not primitives.
Their technology, while different from ours, has proven remarkably effective. They've not only repaired the Stellar Dominion but improved it significantly.
Admiral Korthak's expression didn't change. Improved? Commander, that ship represents 3 centuries of the Empire's finest engineering. You claim these creatures have made it better?
With respect, Admiral, yes. Our quantum drives now operate at 112% of original efficiency.
Our weapons systems have triple redundancy. Our hull can withstand damage that would have destroyed the original design.
The humans approach problems differently than we do, and their solutions work. The Admiral's eyes shifted to Dr. Reeves.
Human. You are responsible for contaminating our technology with your inferior methods?
Dr. Reeves met his gaze steadily.
Admiral, we prefer to think of it as collaboration.
Your technology is impressive, but it's also fragile.
We've made it stronger. Fragile?
The word carried dangerous undertones. Our ships have conquered half the galaxy. And one resonance attack nearly destroyed the Stellar Dominion.
That's not conquest, that's a design flaw.
Reeves's voice was calm, but her eyes were steel.
We fixed the flaw.
The transmission crackled with tension. Around the bridge, Zephyrian and human crew members held their breath. This was the moment that would determine whether first contact ended in cooperation or war.
Admiral Korthak's mandibles clicked, a sign of deep thought in Zephyrian culture.
You speak boldly for a member of a species that has never left its star system.
Captain Santos, monitoring from the weapons console, couldn't help herself.
Actually, Admiral, we left our star system about 6 months ago.
Want to guess where we've been? The Admiral's attention snapped to the tactical displays showing the human fleet.
57 vessels hung in formation around Earth, their hybrid engines glowing with the distinctive signature of quantum fusion drives. Every ship bristled with weapons that combined human manufacturing with Zephyrian targeting systems. Impossible, he breathed. Our intelligence indicated this species barely achieved orbital flight.
President Martinez stepped forward. Admiral, human intelligence is often underestimated. It's a mistake that has cost many opponents dearly throughout our history. You threaten the Empire?
We invite the Empire to reconsider its assumptions.
Martinez's diplomatic training showed as she navigated the dangerous waters of interstellar politics. Commander Veltar can attest to our capabilities. We've proven that cooperation benefits both our species. Admiral Korthak studied the sensor readings from his flagship.
The human vessel showed energy signatures that defied classification, too advanced for primitives, too crude for standard galactic technology, but undeniably powerful. Commander Veltar, the Admiral said finally, you will demonstrate these alleged improvements to your ship.
If human modifications have truly enhanced Zephyrian technology, prove it.
What followed was a combat demonstration that would become legendary in both human and Zephyrian military academies.
The Stellar Dominion, with its hybrid systems and human-inspired redundancy, faced off against the Admiral's flagship, the Galactic Supremacy, a pure Zephyrian design representing the pinnacle of Imperial engineering. Weapons to training levels, Veltar commanded. This is a demonstration, not a death match. The Galactic Supremacy opened fire first, its plasma cannons painting space with coherent energy.
The shots were precise, devastating, and aimed at the Stellar Dominion's most vulnerable systems.
By traditional Zephyrian tactics, the engagement should have ended in seconds.
Instead, the hybrid ship's backup systems engaged. When the primary quantum core took hits, secondary fusion reactors seamlessly took over power distribution. When the main plasma cannons were targeted, human-designed railgun batteries provided covering fire. When the navigation systems were compromised, mechanical backup guidance kept the ship operational. Impossible, Admiral Korthak muttered, watching his superior firepower fail to achieve quick victory.
The ship should be crippled.
The ship learns, Dr. Reeves explained over the comm channel. Every hit teaches its systems how to adapt.
Human engineering isn't about building perfect components, it's about building systems that get stronger under pressure.
The demonstration continued for an hour, with the Stellar Dominion weathering attacks that would have destroyed any standard Zephyrian vessel. More importantly, the hybrid ship's performance actually improved as the battle progressed, its adaptive systems learning from each exchange. When Admiral Korthak finally called a halt to the exercise, his voice carried a note of respect that hadn't been there before. Commander, your ship's performance is surprising.
Sir, Veltar replied carefully, would you like to examine the modifications personally? The Admiral's inspection tour of the Stellar Dominion was an education in the differences between human and Zephyrian engineering philosophy.
Every system showed evidence of human influence, backup systems bolted onto elegant Zephyrian designs, redundant pathways created through creative use of spare parts, and solutions that prioritized functionality over aesthetic perfection. This power coupling shouldn't work, the Admiral observed, studying a junction where human fusion technology interfaced with Zephyrian quantum systems. The energy frequencies are completely incompatible.
Engineer Vorten, now wearing human-style work coveralls instead of formal Zephyrian uniforms, grinned with unmistakable pride.
Sir, that's what we thought too.
But, Dr. Yamamoto showed us how to use a phase buffer to sync the frequencies.
It's not elegant, but it increases power output by 30%. Dr. Yamamoto herself appeared from behind a maintenance panel, her hands dirty and her face streaked with grease. Admiral, your people think like artists, every solution has to be beautiful.
We think like plumbers, if it works and doesn't explode, it's good enough. The Admiral stared at the human scientist. In his 3 centuries of service, no engineer had ever appeared before him in such undignified condition. The proper response should have been outrage at the disrespect. Instead, he found himself asking, the phase buffer, could this technique be applied to other systems?
Oh, absolutely, Yamamoto replied enthusiastically. We've used similar approaches on the weapons grid, the navigation array, and the life support systems.
Want to see?
For the next 6 hours, Admiral Korthak toured a starship that challenged every assumption he held about technology, engineering, and the natural order of galactic civilization. The humans had taken the Empire's most advanced warship and made it better through sheer audacious creativity. More disturbing was the obvious camaraderie between human and Zephyrian crew members. Zen was teaching a group of human engineers traditional Zephyrian meditation techniques while learning human poker. HFY and Captain Santos were engaged in heated debate about optimal weapons placement, their argument conducted with the passion of professionals who respected each other's expertise. Most shocking of all was Commander Veltar himself. The rigid, by-the-book officer Korthak remembered had been replaced by someone who laughed at human jokes, contributed to brainstorming sessions, and seemed genuinely excited by impossible engineering challenges.
Commander, the Admiral said privately, what have these humans done to you?
Veltar considered the question seriously. Sir, they've taught me that there's more than one way to solve a problem.
They've shown me that sometimes the best answer is the one no one expects. And, you believe this makes you better officers?
Sir, I believe this makes us better beings. When my ship crashed, we accepted death as inevitable. The humans refused to accept that anything was inevitable. They looked at our worthless wreckage and saw opportunity.
They looked at our impossible problems and asked, why not? Admiral Korthak spent the evening in the ship's common area, watching the most unusual crew in galactic history share dinner.
Humans and Zephyrians sat together, comparing cultural practices, sharing stories, and planning impossible modifications to already impossible technology. Dr. Chen was explaining human coffee culture to a fascinated group of Zephyrians.
You see, coffee isn't just a stimulant, it's a social ritual.
Humans use coffee breaks to solve problems, build relationships, and have the informal conversations that often matter more than formal meetings. Fascinating, observed Lieutenant Commander HFY.
Zephyrians use meditation pods for similar purposes. Perhaps we could combine the approaches? Coffee meditation?
Dr. Reeves suggested.
I like it. Caffeine for the body, mindfulness for the soul.
The casual mixing of cultures and ideas would have horrified most Imperial officers. It represented everything the Empire sought to avoid: contamination of pure Zephyrian methods with foreign influences.
Yet the results spoke for themselves.
The crew of the Stellar Dominion was more effective, more creative, and more adaptable than any in the Imperial fleet.
The next morning brought Admiral Korthak's verdict. Standing on the bridge before assembled representatives of both species, the highest-ranking Zephyrian in the sector made the announcement that would reshape galactic politics. The Empire recognizes humanity as a technological partner, he declared formally.
Your species will be granted protected status and offered full diplomatic relations.
President Martinez stepped forward.
Admiral, we're honored by your recognition. We hope this marks the beginning of a long and productive relationship between our peoples.
However, the Admiral continued, the Empire requires certain assurances.
Your rapid technological advancement and military buildup suggests aggressive intentions.
What guarantees can you offer that humanity will not become a threat to galactic stability?
The question hung in the air like a challenge. This was the moment both species had been building toward, the test of whether humans could be trusted with technology that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Captain Santos answered for all humanity.
Admiral, we offer the only guarantee that matters: mutual benefit. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to explore it, learn from it, and contribute to it. But we also won't be anyone's victims. She gestured toward the human fleet visible through the observation ports. Those ships weren't built to threaten the Empire. They were built to ensure that humanity enters galactic society as equals, not as subjects. You can choose to see that as a threat, or you can see it as an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Dr. Reeves spoke up from her position at the engineering station. To learn what humans do best, turning impossible situations into opportunities. Admiral, your empire has conquered half the galaxy using the same methods for centuries. What happens when you encounter something those methods can't handle? The empire adapts, Korthak replied stiffly. Does it? Or does it apply more force until the problem goes away? Reeves's question was pointed but not disrespectful. Because we've seen your technology, Admiral. It's incredible, but it's also inflexible. One unexpected attack vector and your most advanced ship becomes scrap metal. She indicated the stellar dominion around them. This ship survived because humans don't accept that broken means worthless. We turn setbacks into comebacks. We make advantages out of disadvantages. That's what we offer the Empire, a completely different way of thinking about problems. Admiral Korthak considered her words carefully. The demonstration had proven that human methods could enhance Zephyrian technology. The question was whether the Empire was ready to admit that enhancement was possible. His decision surprised everyone, including himself. Dr. Reeves, would you and your team consider serving as technical advisors to the Imperial fleet? The Empire would be interested in learning these adaptive techniques. The spontaneous cheer that erupted from the bridge came from both species. Humans and Zephyrians had not just achieved peaceful first contact, they had established the foundation for true partnership. Later, as the combined fleets prepared to depart Earth's solar system for humanity's first interstellar expedition, Commander Veltar stood beside Dr. Reeves on the observation deck. Do you think it will work? He asked. This partnership between our peoples? Reeves smiled, watching human and Zephyrian ships flying in formation toward the stars. Commander, 3 months ago your people thought this ship was worthless junk. Today it's the most advanced vessel in the galaxy. If we can turn your worst day into our greatest opportunity, I think we can handle whatever the universe throws at us. The galaxy will never be the same, Veltar observed. No, Reeves agreed cheerfully. It'll be better. Behind them, the stars waited, countless worlds, civilizations, and challenges that neither humanity nor the Zephyrian Empire could face alone. But, together, with human adaptability and Zephyrian knowledge, they were ready for anything. After all, humans had learned long ago that there was no such thing as a truly impossible problem. There were only problems they hadn't solved yet.